Hey, what's up, everybody? I hope you're having a great week so far. We're right in the middle of the week, Wednesday, and I know that normally we do the Friday wrap up here on this channel, but I didn't realize it last night while I was doing TNC. I'm actually going to be traveling this Friday, so I'm not going to be able to do the Friday wrap up. So I thought we would just go ahead and do the wrap up today. We're going to call it the Wednesday wrap up this week. And phone lines are open if you guys want to talk about the fight, but I need to have just a minute here to talk about some pay-per-view reporting that is kind of funny, kind of interesting. And I'm seeing some double standards, and I just want to put some information out there and just some insight for some of you. But okay, so I should reiterate, or I should just state, preface that this is not to beat up on any particular reporter or anything like that. This isn't some beef thing or whatever. I will mention some reporters' names because of some tweets that have been out there, but this is just in reference to the industry in general and the way that certain pay-per-view numbers are reported from certain platforms and the way others are reported. So there are definitely agendas out there, and I'll talk about some of that. So anyway, it was either late last night or early this morning, Tuesday night, early Wednesday morning, that Dan Rafael, who doesn't really work for any platform anymore, and he hasn't for a while. He's, I guess I'd call him semi-retired. He just kind of does a blog every now and then, a personal little blog, and basically is just kind of doing his social media accounts. So Dan Rafael posted a blog that said the Canelo-Golovkin trilogy fight that just took place, I don't know, 72 plus hours ago. I think it was around 72 hours when Dan Rafael posted this thing, that it did between 550 and 600,000 pay-per-view buys. And right at the start of his blog, he immediately mentions how disappointing those numbers are and how it's going to fall short of being able to cover the fighter purses, which he listed at $75 million. I think those numbers are not quite correct. I've seen the numbers reported closer to $60 million, but either way, there was a big purse guarantee for this fight. And so that's what Dan Rafael reported. Other sources, it's been anywhere from 500 to 600,000 I've seen. And I just find it interesting that 3 days after this fight, 3 days after, you're seeing reports about Canelo-Golovkin3 pay-per-view numbers, where we still don't have numbers for several pay-per-view cards that have taken place this year and also in recent years. I would say more so after the COVID pandemic and the little break from that we came back in late 2020. So really over the last 2 years. Now, some of these pay-per-views that we've had, and to be fair, PBC's had maybe a dozen of them, maybe a dozen. ESPN's had a couple, and now DAZN's had a couple. But anyway, we've seen some numbers get reported, but not the same way this Canelo's seem to be reported. Now, he is the face of boxing, particularly here in North America. So instantly, as soon as there's something to report, people want to report it, even if it's not confirmed, because Canelo drives clicks, right? He gets headlines, he gets people clicking, he gets people interested. So I get the need and the push for this from members of the media, especially like the senior members of the media that are kind of going their own way and doing their own thing. And some of the senior guys, even at some of the establishment media platforms. I get why they do this. I do. But there really does seem to be some double standards, okay? With the PBC stuff, people report, again, they've reported some of these pay-per-views, but not all of them, not even most of them. And it's usually one or two people, and it's just a report of the numbers. They really don't get into the profitability of the show. They don't, at least from the stuff I've seen. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think you're going to agree with what I'm saying. There doesn't seem to be this push to immediately jump to profitability and how much the fighter purses were versus the revenue, the gate revenue, and all this stuff, and whack all that up and say, you know, this was a really great show for Fox or for ESPN, for Showtime. Yet, if it involves DAZN, if it involves Eddie Hearn, there does seem to be a little bit of a difference in tone to the reporting. Now, this isn't consistent 100% across the board. I'm just talking about a lot of the stuff I see, a lot of the stuff I hear. And of course, you could go into the YouTube channels and all that, and there's a ton of crazy, wacky agendas on in a lot of those communities. But anyway, Dan Rafael reports maybe about 600,000 buys. He immediately mentions that this is going to fall short of, paying the fighter purses. And then he mentions Canelo's recent numbers against Dimitri Bivol, which he reported at about 520,000. And then he mentions Canelo's pay-per-view against Caleb Plant, which he reported as being around 800,000 buys. Now, I get the comparison because those are the recent fights. Those are Canelo's most recent fights, and it's all been within the last year or so. So I understand that. But comparing DAZN pay-per-view numbers to Fox pay-per-view numbers or ESPN or Showtime is sort of an apples and oranges comparison. When you look at ESPN and Fox and Showtime, they are part of, I don't know the right way to describe it, but the traditional establishment institution of media, the media system, right? The old infrastructure that's starting to wane and kind of fall apart. Yet the infrastructure, I'm going to probably beat that word into the ground in this video, is still set up where there's a lot of different media streams and access for these senior members of media to get to people and to get just access to the events in general. It's all set up, and there's parent company upon parent company, right? So there's all these different opportunities for cross promotion and things like that are involved when you're talking about that legacy establishment media and that whole infrastructure. With DAZN, you're talking about a self-contained unit. There is no parent company. There is like when you think of ESPN, you're really talking about Disney, right? When you're talking about Showtime, you're talking about, what is it, ABC, CBS? I can't remember. I think it's CBS actually. But there's massive parent companies, and that's just a completely different conversation. So comparing Canelo Triple G3 numbers to Canelo Bivol numbers, that does make sense. But comparing it to Canelo Plant numbers, that really is I mean, I get why you're going there. It's boxing, it's Canelo. I get it. But there should at least be a mention that you're comparing a self-contained app to a major media conglomerate with old school media entertainment infrastructure and setup. Why do I bring this up? Well, as I've talked about many times on my show, when you do a pay-per-view on legacy media, there's a pay-per-view provider, a distributor involved, right? So let's stick with Fox. Actually, you know what? Let's go ESPN. I'm not even going to go PBC. Let's just go ESPN. We'll do a third party here, okay? We'll leave Matchroom and PBC out of it. Let's go with Top Rank and ESPN. Whether it's on ESPN Plus app or the actual network or both. I think a lot of times the broadcast, especially the pay-per-views, are available on both. You're talking about Disney, and there's a pay-per-view provider there. That's ESPN/Disney. And Top Rank has to whack up the pay-per-view revenue with that provider, with that distributor. They're not keeping all of that money. You guys get it? I think it's right around half, okay? And every deal is a little different. It's right around half. Even if it's the app, because the app is still part of that whole media apparatus. It's a little bit different on the app, but not that much different. Top Rank is still splitting that pay-per-view revenue, okay? And it's the same thing with PBC and Fox and Showtime. All that's being split up. On DAZN, if you're selling the $65 Canelo Triple G3 pay-per-view to a DAZN subscriber and they're getting it right there on the app, DAZN is the provider. DAZN is the distributor. They own all of it. They already have the subscriber. They're just opening them up to the live pay-per-view broadcast. Does that make sense? Now, with the $85 fee for non-DAZN subscribers, you do have to go through a provider, okay? And you're going to whack up some of that money with that provider or distributor based, upon the market and the cable provider, all that good stuff. So some of that is being whacked up, but to the actual DAZN subscriber, there's no parent company. There's no distributor you're giving half the revenue right off the top to. Also, It's a global app. And some markets, it's in what, over 100 markets. Some markets, the show's pay-per-view. Other markets, it's part of the regular programming with your subscription. So the way all the money is collected is very different. So making the comparison of, oh, well, this Canelo-Golovkin3 fight did 600,000 buys, Canelo Plant did 800,000, to the casual fan, to the ignorant person who doesn't understand the way this is all whacked up, they're looking at that and saying, oh, well, that show's more profitable. Not necessarily, because that 800,000 buys on Fox cut that revenue in half immediately. Sometimes it's even more than half, depending on the distribution, how it all works out. So in a sense, 600,000 on DAZN may be more profitable in the end than 800,000 on Fox. Does that make sense? Okay. So making that immediate comparison is kind of lazy. And I'm not saying this about Dan Rafael necessarily. I'm just saying in general, because you guys know there's going to be a million YouTube videos made about this, and people with agendas who can't wait to shit on Canelo and put him down and everything. But I really think it's also certain media platforms and people attached to those platforms can't wait for DAZN to fail. And they can't wait for Eddie Hearn to fail. And that's where I think a lot of this is coming from. There's an immediate urge to pounce whenever you can slam DAZN and slam Eddie Hearn, because he and DAZN and what they represent is a direct threat to everything I said before about the establishment legacy media apparatus, that system, that institution. The app, and I'm not talking about the Showtime app, the ESPN app, because those are part of the network. They're a part of the machine, okay? DAZN is its own thing. That is a direct threat to the machine, all right? So there just seems to be, and look, you've heard Bob Arum say things about Eddie Hearn. You've heard Leonard Ellerby and the guys at PBC say stuff about him. I talk to people, in the boxing establishment all the time, basically every day. And even people I really, really like really shit on Eddie Hearn a lot. They're really, really mad at this dude. And this isn't me sucking off Eddie Hearn here. This isn't me sucking off DAZN, because believe me, there's a lot of things, and you guys know this if you watch my show. I've been highly critical, especially of DAZN recently. I was highly critical of their marketing, death to pay-per-view, and then here it is, they're doing pay-per-views. I think that they could do a lot more to service their subscribers, especially the dedicated subscribers who have been there since day one, the annual subscribers. They could give a even bigger break with these pay-per-views to annual subscribers. Give an incentive to do the annual subscription. Maybe the pay-per-view, instead of being 65, it's 55. I don't know. I'm just throwing something out there. But I've talked about the shoulder programming being very, very poor. The messaging and marketing being very, very poor at times, and almost insulting to the subscriber. Real quick, I won't go too far down this rabbit hole, but I have to bring this up because I just want to make it very, very clear. This isn't me being a pom-pom waver for DAZN. I'm very critical of certain things. But the people running their social media and some of the people behind the scenes in the production side of things, the management side of things, are more interested in pushing, I'm just going to call this out, social justice, woke kind of ideology on their social media and stuff, and virtue signaling, more so than marketing to the demographics who are actually buying and paying for this shit. And when I say demographics, I'm talking about the diehard boxing fans, right? From different parts of the world, different parts of the country, different communities. But I remember during Gay Pride Month, DAZN changed their profile picture to the gay flag, which, cool. If that's what you want to do, like, awesome. Are there gay boxing fans? Sure there are. Do they deserve equal treatment and respect and everything? Abso-freaking-lutely. Everybody's money's green. I get it, okay? But if we're being honest, the gay boxing fan market constitutes maybe a fraction of a % of the overall boxing fan base. That sort of virtue signaling, while I'm cool with it, if that's cool, man, do what you want to do. But I haven't seen that same virtue signaling for other groups that constitute a much larger portion of the overall consumer that's actually paying for your app. I'm not seeing equal representation with the changing of the profile picture colors and all this stuff month after month after month, because there are a lot of different pride months and heritage months and things like that, right? There are a lot of different national holidays here in America and stuff. I'm not seeing a lot of American flag profile pictures. So I bring this up just to once again reiterate that some of the decisions DAZN has made from a marketing standpoint, from a promotional standpoint, and from a value standpoint, has been questionable at times, and maybe not servicing the diehard boxing fan base. Okay, I just want to bring that up because, again, I don't want this to be, oh, Montero's just pom-pom waving for DAZN. Having said all that, I do recognize that top to bottom, they probably do provide the best value in, at least in the United States, but also in other markets for boxing fans. You pay the annual subscription. Yeah, you got to pay extra for Canelo fights, but top to bottom, you're being provided with more content, at least actual boxing cards, than the other platforms are giving you for your subscription. So I recognize that while heavily flawed, they are providing some value. I just wanted to bring up the pay-per-view stuff again. Let's jump back to that. Sorry for that tangent. Let's stick with Dan Rafael's number, okay? Let's go with like 550,000. And let's assume that we'll go with the $65 price tag. We won't include the $85 because let's just assume that from that $85 price tag, 20 bucks of that at least is going to a distributor, a provider. If we stick with Dan Rafael's 550,000 number times 65 bucks, that's right around $35 million in revenue, okay? Let's stick with that number, $35 million in revenue. Let's talk about the live gate revenue. You're talking about 19,000 tickets sold. I think that's what we reported. If the average ticket was $1,000, it was actually more because like nosebleeds were $700, but that comes out to 20 million in revenue. Okay. I want to try to just use broad conservative numbers. So 35 million in pay-per-view revenue, $20 million in live gate revenue. You're at 55 million. According to Dan Rafael, they had to pay out 75 million in fighter purses. Holy shit, they're down $20 million, right? And that's what's being tweeted out there. It's what I saw this morning. That's what some of the YouTube channels are going to be talking about. You guys are forgetting a lot of revenue streams. A lot. First of all, let's start with the fact that this was in an MGM property, right? This was at the T-Mobile Arena, which is owned by MGM. MGM owns like basically 2/3 of Las Vegas, a lot of the property on the Strip. They pay a site fee to bring the fight to their venue, okay? And depending on the act, some of these site fees are massive. It's not just in Vegas. I mean, you guys have seen massive site fees in Saudi Arabia for some recent fights, tens of millions of dollars, crazy, crazy site fees. And they're getting even crazier, the site fees. Promoters love it because it's guaranteed money. Before they sell one ticket, before they sell one pay-per-view buy, it's just money that the casino is giving them. It's usually a casino, not always, but usually a casino. So there was a site fee here. And for Canelo Alvarez, he's going to bring whales in. MGM, they open up their checkbook for Canelo Alvarez because they're going to get a lot of the whales flying in internationally. And that's what the casinos want. That's how they make their money. They don't make their money on regular guys like us going to Vegas and playing the penny slots or the nickel slots. They make their money off of whales. You get whales to come out for these big events, right? And maybe you comp them a ticket to the fight if you're the casino, or you comp them a room, but they're going down to the craps tables or whatever, and they're going to drop 500 grand in a weekend. These people really do that. It's crazy. I've talked to some of these casino executives, and it's nuts the numbers these guys are dealing with. So let's just say, and I don't know what the site fee is, but let's just say $10 million. $10 million to bring this fight. And I should also mention that there is a site fee for Canelo Plant, site fee for Canelo Bivol, because they're all in Vegas, right? And again, they open up their checkbooks for Canelo. But if you're paying a certain amount for Canelo Plant, Canelo Bivol, you're obviously going to pay a bigger site fee for Canelo-Golovkin because Golovkin's a much bigger commodity than Plant and Bivol. So there is probably a pretty nice chunky site fee for this fight. Let's call it 10 million. So now you're at 65 million. You're still short 10 million, according to Dan Rafael's reporting. If you really believe the 75 million in purse guarantees, which I don't. More about that in a second. But you're still missing money. What are we missing? Well, let's factor in merchandising. Let's factor in sponsorships. By the way, sponsorships, that's global, right? It's not just American companies sponsoring things. It's all the Mexican companies coming in, all the companies from Eastern Europe, Central Asia, different parts of Europe for Golovkin. These are two big fighters globally. So there's sponsorship money, there's merchandising, but then also, how about ad revenue? Now, I bitched about the ads during the pay-per-view. I hate that look. I hate it. But I fully recognize that that's revenue for the promotion. And they weren't just doing ad revenue. They weren't just doing ads on the pay-per-view here in America. DAZN, which is in over 100 countries, was doing ads on every single broadcast of this fight in every single market that it's in. So all of that global ad revenue, we're not just talking about ads on a Fox pay-per-view here in America. We're talking about global ad revenue in over 100 different countries. That's going to bring in several million. And then also this was shown in movie theaters here in the United States and in different, I think Fathom Events did it, but I think it was a couple different companies actually distributed the fight at movie theaters. There's some additional revenue. Between all of those streams, you're probably talking at least another $10 million. So boom, now we're at the 75 million that Dan Rafael reported. We're still missing a key element here. You guys know where I'm going? International money, international broadcast rights. Now, it's on DAZN in most markets, but not all markets. There are some they just did the Joshua Usyk rematch, and over in the UK, that was on Sky because Sky paid more money, and the promoter, Matchroom, said, shit, they're paying so much money for this. Well, let's just go with that. Everybody wanted that fight. ESPN actually put in a bid. So it's not DAZN in every market. So some of the foreign TV money that's coming in, that's additional revenue. And again, when DAZN does air this in other markets, they're keeping all the ad revenue. They're not whacking that up. If you do a promotion, like if you're a promoter here in America, and let's say a Polish TV network, Polstat, wants to pay you, let's just say $1 million to air the fight in Poland. Okay, cool. That's a flat fee. You're not getting any ad revenue from that. You're just getting that fee. It's almost like a site fee from the network. Okay, cool. But if you own the network, which DAZN does in over 100 markets, you keep all that ad revenue for yourself. So I just wanted to put in your guys' mind all these different revenue streams, okay? People will just look at the pay-per-view numbers in the live gate and say, oh, this didn't make enough. Dude, there's all these other streams, particularly when you're talking on a global scale, and this was very much a global fight. Maybe not as big in America as the first two, but globally, Canelo, obviously, he's a massive star in Mexico, but he is a star throughout the world. Pretty big star here in America, too, now. Same with Golovkin, though. Not nearly as big of a star as Canelo. I'm not saying that, but he's still a top 5 brand globally in all of boxing. He just had a fight in Japan earlier this year that did massive numbers. And that was an 8-figure payday for him and his opponent. So all of that combined makes for a profitable show. Make no mistake, even if you believe Dan Rafael's reporting, Canelo-Golovkin3 on a global basis, global scale, was a profitable show. Now here's the rub. Lance Pugmire. I should mention that Eddie Hearn, by the way, said that Dan Rafael's reporting was bullshit. It said it right to him on Twitter. And not just on that, but on a couple other things. Dan isn't having the best 24 to 48 hours. And it's all good, man. We all have those times. I've had plenty of them. So I had a pretty bad week a few weeks ago. So again, this isn't beating up on Dan. But Lance Pugmire of the LA Times tweeted out that a source directly from DAZN told him that this fight did over 1 million pay-per-view buys. Still a little bit short of what it did on HBO. The first one, I think, did 1.3. The second one did 1.1. But apparently, according to Lance Pugmire, this one did like just slightly over 1 million, just short of 1.1 million. Okay. So again, taking into account what I said before about splitting in pay-per-view distribution and whacking up the money, 1.05 on DAZN, much more profitable for the promotion than 1.3 million on HBO. You guys get what I'm saying? So do you believe Lance Pugmire's number or do you believe Dan Raphael's number? Maybe the truth lies somewhere in the middle, but I will say this. If we whack the difference in half and say it was 800,000, that adds 15 million in revenue to the estimate I just brought up. So that makes this show very profitable. Okay. So depending on how the numbers come out and stuff, I'm just saying, depending on who you believe, it did anywhere from 500,000 to over 1 million pay-per-view buys. That's a major issue in American boxing media, specifically American media, but pretty much all of boxing media. The vast varying numbers and reports that you get on this kind of stuff, because people come with agendas, you know. I've seen some people that immediately looked at Lance Pugmire's tweet and said, oh, well, this is including the international viewership. That's why. Listen, this was pay-per-view here in America. Globally, the global viewership for this was in the millions, like millions upon millions. It wasn't just over 1 million globally watching this. So that is completely incorrect. But I felt the need to talk about this real quick because I do see differences in the way these things are reported. Real quick, I just want to talk about these guaranteed purses that you guys see out there, right? Guarantees. A lot of times they're not necessarily completely wrong, but the way it's being reported, it's leaving out substantial details. So just to give you a quick insight into this, I've talked about this on my show too, but if me, Michael Montero, if I sign a contract, a 5-fight deal with Top Rank, and they offer me $10 million guaranteed per fight, 5-fight deal, the media is going to take that and say, Michael Montero signs $50 million contract with Top Rank. That's the way it's going to be reported in media. But here's the truth behind that 50 million guarantee. There are dozens of stipulations. There are thresholds that have to be met, and there are boxes that have to be checked. So really what it breaks down to is like a $3 million flat fee plus a bunch of incentives. If we hit certain viewership, certain subscribership, if it's on an app or something like that, certain pay-per-view buys, if it's a pay-per-view. And then there's international rights and fees that are included in this, and how all that whacks up. And I get maybe a portion of that if that hits certain thresholds and stuff in certain markets. Maybe some international markets, I don't get any of the money. Maybe some international markets, I get 50%, whatever, right? All this gets whacked up. And then what ends up happening is I can earn up to $10 million guaranteed, plus pay-per-view incentive and all that, maybe even more than 10 million. But the 10 million guarantee is dependent on a bunch of different things. And it's not as simple as, oh, Mike, you can go fight the peanut vendor working at MGM Grand, the guy selling the fucking peanuts. You can go fight him, and you could do all 5 fights in 1 year, and you get 50 million bucks. That's not how it works. It's got to be an opponent chosen by the promotion that they feel they can market to, and everything else. These deals are very complicated when you're talking about that kind of money, right? And then it might be like, well, you're guaranteed 1 fight a year at this rate, maximum of 2 fights a year at this rate. If you want to fight 3 times, we're going to cut this guarantee in half. And after 3 years, if you haven't done all 5 fights, we have the right to cancel the contract, et cetera, et cetera. There are all these appendixes in the contract. That doesn't get reported in media. So when you see that Canelo Alvarez was supposedly getting $45 million for this fight. Now, look, sometimes there really are contracts where they're like, here, dude, here's a check for 40 mil. You're good. You can fight the dude, the $5 an hour t-shirt dude out in the parking lot. You could fight him. Here's 40 million bucks. Boom. Sometimes there are contracts like that, but 99% of the time, there are at least some stipulations in that contract with certain thresholds and things like that that whack up that guaranteed money. And so to just say Canelo gets 45 million, it's a little bit misleading. All right. And I just want to put that out there because, again, with the reports of this show and how it all breaks down profitability wise, some of those things aren't factored into the reporting. Why? I don't necessarily blame the media for this, but what looks sexier? Michael Montero gets a few $1 million plus all the upside if these 62 stipulations are met, within a calendar year. Or Michael Montero signs $50 million deal with Top Rank. What looks sexier? What's the sexier headline? What's going to drive more clicks? You guys already know the answer, right? That's why it's reported that way. All right. Media always pads the numbers. It's just like when they're listing these guys' height. They always add an inch. They always add an inch, sometimes two. Let's see. Sam with the super chat. Thank you, brother. He says, and the fights were boring except Bam fight brawl. Yeah, we talked about that yesterday, right? The main event was underwhelming. I guess the co-main really was the fight of the night, and the scorecards of the co-main were shit. The scorecards of the main event were not very good. So, there's a lot to complain about. But numbers are numbers, and they don't lie unless the people reporting the numbers are lying. And that's the point to this video. It's not necessarily about the fight itself. All right. Yeah, okay. Let's jump to, I thought we had some calls. Damn, a couple of you guys dropped. Okay. Well, look, guys, I'm done with my rant. If you want to call in real quick, you can. I'm not going to be able to do a Friday wrap-up for those of you who just jumped on, but I could jump to the chat here and get a couple of these comments. Trent Namperia, what's up, Trent? He says, media love to pad the numbers. Yup. Joe says, Dan Rafael is not credible. I wouldn't say that, Joe. And again, this isn't a video designed to beat up on Dan Rafael. I mentioned Mike Coppinger yesterday. I mentioned Dan and Lance Pugmire today. Everybody gets some things wrong. I think that the issue is people jumping the gun, reporting some of this stuff as if it's confirmed, legit, because they want to be first. I think that's generally speaking the issue. It's just like last week, Cop tweeted about Crawford Spence for the 475th time. And here we are a week later, that fight's still not official. It's still not announced. Supposedly it's supposed to take place November 19th. That's less than 2 months away. So if the fight doesn't happen November 19th, Cop's going to look dumb again, and it won't be the first time. But Cop really doesn't care about that. He'll take those hits because his main interest is to drive clicks and viewership for ESPN boxing social media and their boxing site. And he does that with his reports. So in that sense, he's doing his job. But if Coppinger tweets about a fight being put together, I kind of take it as, well, this is a rumor. I don't look at it as breaking news. It's reported as breaking news, but I don't look at the fight being signed. Like when Terrence Crawford tweets about it, like, yo, it's on November 19th, I can't wait. Or Errol Spence tweets about it, I can't wait to get in the ring with Bud. When those guys report about it, okay, now the fight's official. Now we can talk about it. But until then, rumors. It's just rumors. By the way, that's a lot of the pay-per-view numbers shit too. It's kind of the point of this video. Hawker Mustang says, I heard Canelo got 40 million in Triple G, 20 million, probably more fake boxing news. No, dude, those are the numbers I heard. I heard that the combined guaranteed purses for this were closer to 60 million. So once again, if you go to the numbers that I broke down, even taking Dan Rafael's, 500,000 or so pay-per-view buys, it's still a profitable show. And those guys are going to get paid more than that because of the upside I'm talking about. If it really did closer to 1 million, this was a very profitable show. And kind of a dagger in the heart of that establishment media I was talking about, because if a privately owned app is doing substantially more pay-per-view buys than fights on Fox, Showtime, ESPN, this isn't just beating up on PBC. They're just the ones doing 1 billion pay-per-views. But look, guys, Top Rank and ESPN did Tyson Fury, Dillian White. Those numbers were never released. The media couldn't, they couldn't wait to report Canelo's numbers. You telling me Tyson Fury isn't a top 2 or 3 boxing, or I'm sorry, not top 3, definitely top 5 boxing brand. They never reported his numbers. See what I'm saying? It's just a double standard. It's just a double standard here. Why? Because Fury fought on ESPN, and that's part of that establishment. And there just seems to be a push to get the zone out of business, to get Eddie Hearn out of the American boxing market. Just what I see. Israel Cano Jr. says, I had Canelo winning 9-3, sadly. That's the exact same score I had, Israel. And if we're going to sit here and talk about pay-per-view numbers, I guess I could talk about the fight itself real quick. I mean, I did a whole rant on it yesterday, but I'm seeing more and more people doubling down that, this was a draw. This was, a razor close fight. And then you're seeing these carefully edited videos trying to make the fight look closer than it was with punches. Guys, Canelo Alvarez won this fucking fight. That's it. And I'd hardly be accused of being a Golovkin hater. I mean, anybody out there who calls me a Triple G hater is a fucking moron. And hello, were you there in 2017 when I stuck it to the fucking machine? I was the guy sticking it to the fucking machine after Adelaide Bird's scorecard, right? The only one. Other people talked, but I was the only one who talked with the fucking microphone in my hand. So if you're calling me a Golovkin hater because I scored this fight for Canelo, you're a fucking moron. That's the last thing I am. But I scored this 117-111 for Canelo. And that's being generous. I don't see how you give Golovkin more than 3 rounds. And I'm just telling the truth. I'm just telling you guys what I saw. Vic B with the super chat. Thank you so much, Vic. Appreciate it. Vic says, PBC Showtime have been mostly non-existent this year. Off of pay-per-view, yeah. They've existed with a lot of pay-per-views. We're not getting consistent reporting on those pay-per-view numbers. I've noticed that. But yeah, if you're just a regular Showtime subscriber, a regular, especially on Fox, like you're not getting anything. At least on Showtime, we got that Charlo Castaño rematch. That was a good fight. We also got Fundora Lubin. That was a good fight. We got some good fights on Showtime this year. But man, most of their best fights are going to freaking pay-per-view. All right, let's see here. Ace says, talks of Canelo decline, but not enough are talking about what he said about injuries and resting his body. Yeah, Ace, I think the talks of Canelo's decline are really exaggerated. I think that Canelo was really busy fighting naturally larger guys, even though they weren't very good. They weren't elite. How about that? They were good, but not elite. His body's a little beat up. He's done some questionable things in terms of the way he's treated his body, allegedly, according to VADA. I'll just leave that alone. Those sorts of things will damage your body prematurely. But he probably does need a rest. He's not going to fight until Cinco de Mayo 2023. That's the next time he will fight. I'm putting that on record right now. So if you want to see Canelo again, you're going to have to wait about 8 months. He ain't going to fight again until May. But people talking about he's declined, I think that's ridiculous. He's still among the top 10 pound-for-pound fighters in the world. And if you can't see that, and by the way, me saying that is also complimenting Golovkin, because a 40-year-old Golovkin who has tons of wear and tear on his body was able to be somewhat competitive with Canelo in a few rounds and make it interesting in the second half of the fight. He still clearly lost. It was a one-sided fight, but he actually took less punishment in this third fight than the rematch 4 years ago. So that shows improved defense from Golovkin. And he did fight defensive. He fought cautious. He only threw the jab. He didn't really start throwing power punches until the last third of the fight. Didn't throw hardly enough power punches to be remotely close to winning the fight. I see all that. Yes, I see those points, but he was still pretty damn competitive at 40 years old. Was one of the best fighters in the world. Certainly did better than the likes of Caleb Plant, Callum Smith, Billy Joe Saunders, right? This says a lot about the character of Gennady Golovkin as a fighter, who still gets hated on to a ridiculous amount by idiots out there. So talks of Canelo's decline are ridiculous. Talks of Golovkin being exposed or something in this fight, equally ridiculous. Okay, I think I saw some super chats. Yeah, a couple from one from Sam here. Thank you, Sam. He said, "You did not satisfy me on why they had a closed weigh-in at 8 a.m. Someone didn't make weight, and it's a big deal for title fights." You know, Sam, the only reason I haven't really talked about that is because, well, I was in Detroit at the time working, and I wasn't there in Vegas, dude. So I'm uncomfortable talking about something where I wasn't there, and I don't really have any inside information. You know, if I was there in Vegas, I would have been tweeting about that, posting about it nonstop. I wasn't there. I simply don't know what was going on, man. But if I was there, you know, I'd be knocking down doors trying to figure out what happened. My thing is, if somebody had issues making weight, an early weigh-in doesn't help them. If someone has issues making weight, if somebody wakes up at 7 a.m. and they got to make 168 and they're weighing 172, weighing in at 8 a.m. isn't going to help. Delaying the weigh-in to 2, 3 o'clock or something is going to help because they're going to be able to lose more weight. You know what I'm saying? So not making weight, I don't know about that. As far as making the weigh-in earlier, kind of counterproductive if you're trying to shed off a few pounds, if you're having issues making weight. If there was a rehydration clause or something like that, an earlier weigh-in helps. And that's what happened when Golovkin fought Jacobs. It turns out Jacobs didn't even try to make the rehydration, but I've seen some shady stuff like that before. Yeah, so I could hear you on that, but in this particular case, I don't know how much there is to it. Omar Rodriguez, thank you so much for the super chat. He said, I saw BAMS give him something that looked like Pedialyte. Is that legal? 100% legal. Pedialyte, 100% legal. I've seen fighters chug it right after weigh-ins 1,000 times. I've done it. Weigh-ins for my fights. I had to weigh 210 for a fight last year, and I had to, you know, cut a little bit to do it. And my wife had a big old thing of Pedialyte for me, and I killed it. I didn't want my opponent to see that shit. I went out to the car. I had it out in the car. Completely legal, dude. It's like, I don't know, a vitamin-rich Gatorade. I don't know. It's just there's sugars and stuff in it that make you feel better. But yeah, totally legal. Pedialyte's fine. Tim Sheehy says, heated reporter, still a legend in my book for asking the right question. Thank you, Tim. I appreciate it, brother. And Israel Kano with another super chat. Thank you, Israel. He says, who should Triple G fight next since he's a network free agent? Unifying with Charlo would be awesome. Yeah, apparently he's done with that DAZN deal, which is interesting because I thought he still had one more fight on that deal, but there must have been an option. So there's an example of what I was talking about earlier. People were talking about the 6-fight deal and this, that, the other. He only fought 5 fights with DAZN. So there must have been an option at the end of that contract to bow out early. So that's what he's doing. Look, dude, yeah, if he ends up signing with PBC and we get to see Canelo versus the likes of Charlo and others, that'd be awesome. But Charlo brings nothing to the table other than a belt. Jaime Munguia is where they're going next because Jaime Munguia, you know, talking about international money, that international revenue. Golovkin just fought in Japan. He is not opposed to fighting in Mexico. I could honestly see a fight between Golovkin and Munguia going down to Mexico City or something, unless Vegas site fee, again, we're coming full circle in this chat. Unless Vegas, the MGM properties say, don't go down there. We'll give you guys $15 million to bring the Mexican whales up to the casino. And believe me, Mexico has a lot of rich people. I know the media in America doesn't report that. There's a lot of rich, really, really wealthy Mexicans that love coming up to Vegas and spending tons of money. So Vegas knows what they're doing when they market to the Mexican base. They really, really do. So trust me, dude, you're going to get Golovkin Munguia way before Golovkin Charlo because it's more money for Golovkin, period. Let's see. Charlo, by the way, his resume is dog shit. And his resume at 54 was okay. At 60, it's absolutely dog shit. He needs to get in the ring and fight somebody. He needs to build up his resume and create demand. Just like I'm saying about David Benavidez at 168, he's got to get in the ring and fight somebody and create demand for Canelo. If Benavidez beat Durrell, Saunders, Plant, those guys, and Morrell, and established himself as the top challenge, that would be the equivalent to what Golovkin did in 2014, 2015, 2016, early 2017 to build himself up for the Golovkin fight. None of these other guys want to go through that process. It's a shame, but that's what you got to do. Sam with a super chat. He said a closed door weigh-in helps hide the real weight. Sam, you're right. If you believe that all of the commission officials were in on this, because now you're going into Deontay Wilder-esque territory. The commission's still back there. Both fighters and their camps are still back there. If there was a closed door weigh-in and Canelo got to go into a room and none of Golovkin's people were allowed to go back there and watch, and it was just Canelo and a commission official, believe me, Jonathan Banks, Gennady Golovkin, even the promoter, Eddie Hearn, would have had something to say about that. So if they're all behind closed doors, okay, I get that. Again, I don't know what the hell happened. I really don't. If you really want me to look into it, I can. But I really don't think it's a factor for the fight. It really doesn't matter because it had no bearing on the outcome of the fight. But they're still all back there with the commission people, the doctors, and both fighters and their teams. So if there's anything shady going on, you have to think that all these people are in on this scam. Why? Because if somebody missed weight, I mean, I didn't look at the fighters and see anybody that looked really, really bad in terms of their conditioning. Golovkin had a late fight surge. Canelo winded a little bit late, but not a whole lot. I've seen guys struggle to make weight before, and I know the effects. I see how they look in the ring. We've seen that, Sam. That's not what I saw in this particular fight. I don't know. But I can look into it. I could definitely look into it. Mike Mendiola says, Mike, he was given what looked like Pedialyte in the corner between rounds. As far as I know, Mendiola, that's legal, dude. I believe you can drink. You guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you could drink Gatorade and that kind of shit. If I'm wrong, correct me. Because again, if something that big was going on, I think we'd be hearing about it from Golovkin's side. Golovkin has been very, very vocal about Canelo and performance-enhancing drugs and all this different stuff in the past. Carne asada, right? Tainted meat. He's been vocal for years, guys. So if there is some sort of possible illegal substance in the other corner, I think Golovkin would have said something. I think Jonathan Banks would have said something. No one's really said anything. So as far as I know, everything was on the up and up. Golovkin's just 40 years old. Omar with another super chat. Okay, so Omar just said, I saw it being given between rounds in the corner. Yeah, as far as I know, man, as far as I know, that is good to go. There's no problem. Oh, interesting here. Russ Pettit says Erislandia Lara was just mandated by one of the sanctioning bodies. Great. I'd love to see Golovkin versus Erislandia Lara. That'd be fun. Lara has slowed down enough himself to where he's not going to run the whole fight. He won't be able to. And Golovkin has slowed down to a certain extent. That actually will be a much better fight than a lot of you guys think it will be if that ends up happening. Ace says, would Munguia give Triple G more guaranteed money than Charlo and Benavidez from PBC? Yes. Yes, he would. Munguia is bigger in Mexico than Charlo and Benavidez are in America. Period. End of story. And Golovkin won't have to split up revenue with a promoter there. Who is Munguia with? I think Munguia is Zanfer Promotions and Golden Boy. Golovkin can kind of do a one-off with them, and The international money would be there. The Mexican TV money would be pretty substantial. And yeah, they could either go to Vegas for the site fee with that, which is, of course, what you do with Charlo and Benavidez. They go to Vegas. But with Munguia, they have that option, or they could take it down to Mexico. He would absolutely get more money. And again, you might see, I see what you're saying now, Ace, with your guaranteed word there in your comment. The media may report it differently, but they're not going to factor in the upside money and all that. I still think Munguia is a bigger financial fight for Golovkin right now than either Charlo or Benavidez. Charlo and Benavidez can change that if they built themselves up a little more. And I'm not trying to suggest that Munguia is some big name in America, because he's clearly not. But he's a bigger name in Mexico than Charlo and Benavidez are in America. So when you whack up the international money, right, and then the fact that Golovkin brings a certain amount of beef with him in the international market, and then the site fee and all that, I think Munguia is the bigger financial draw, and that's the fight you're going to see first. Shadow Combat says, people complaining about Pedialyte. Yeah, dude, look, people, I think it's a couple things. Golovkin fans are pissed off about what happened in the first fight, and they're pissed off that they lost this fight so clearly. And people are trying to reach for ways to, I guess, ease the blow to their heart. You know, they just took a hit to the heart, and they're trying to find ways to ease that pain. Also, there's the conspiracy element of this. Conspiracies stem from people having a difficult time explaining things. It's very difficult for some people to rationalize that, a group of losers hijacked airplanes and flew them into the World Trade Center. It's hard for people to rationalize that a complete degenerate loser, Lee Harvey Oswald, shot the president of the United States. It's difficult for some people to rationalize that after two really good, all-time great middleweight championship fights between Canelo and Golovkin, we got a bit of a dud in the third fight. So people got to try to find ways to rationalize and explain this stuff instead of just accepting that life is fucking random. Believe me, I call shit out when there's something to call out. But the Pedialyte thing, I don't think there's really anything there, guys. Sam A with another super chat. Thank you so much. He said, too much money for a guy to be overweight. Sam, if Canelo came in at 170, this fight still would have went through. There's no way Golovkin would have been like, dude. Okay, I'll say this. Let's say Canelo came in at 170. Let's say they didn't want that reported to the media. Let's say Canelo told Golovkin, I'll give you $5 million more if you let me come in at 169.5. I'll go shave off half a pound. How's that work for you? And they made a backroom deal. Could that have happened? Yes. Have we seen that happen? Mayweather, Marquez. Yeah, we've seen that happen. So could that have happened here? If there's any conspiracy that I will give an inch to that you guys have brought up this week, that's the one. Sure, I could see that. But again, I reiterate, had zero bearing on the fight. Zero. Canelo was going to win this fight no matter what. If these guys fight again in 3 months, Canelo beats Golovkin again. Guess what? It'll still go the distance. There will still be no knockdowns. It'll be an even slower fight the fourth time around. But Canelo will still win. Guys, that's just where we're at. One of these guys is 40. One of them's 32. If Canelo had a shaky chin, if he could be hurt, if he was a guy that was vulnerable in that way, I'd have a different opinion. Mignola says Pedialyte is not legal, at least in California. As far as I know, in Vegas, it's good to go. From what I've been told. Yeah, and Soap Boxing Podcast said in Vegas, Soap Boxing Podcast, said in Vegas it's legal. That's what I've heard. Yeah, I've seen fighters chugging Pedialyte before in Nevada. Guys, there's just nothing there. Okay, Jack Alter right here in the chat says that he just looked it up and validated that Pedialyte and Gatorade are good to go in Nevada. There we go, guys. Let's put that one to bed. Let's move on. Let's move on. And I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, Mindiola says that here in Cali only water is allowed, and you know what? That's probably the way it should be, Mike. It's probably the way it should be, Paisan. But it's legal in Nevada. Sam A with another one. He says, I filmed Bennett moving the scale for the first fight. That's why they used an electric scale in the second fight. Ask Steve Kim. I remember that, Sam. I remember that. I absolutely remember that. By the way, all these scales should be digital now. They should not be using scales from 1950. I don't know why they still had that scale for the first fight. They should all be digital. But again, dude, on that stage, there's literally like 20 people sometimes. If somebody got on that scale and it said 168.5, I regularly see dudes. Let's go back and watch that film, Sam. I'd like to see, because I remember exactly what you're talking about. I remember you bringing that up before. And believe me, I ripped Bob after that first fight. So give me my props, man. But I want to say Abel Sanchez and everybody was right there looking down at the scale. Right there, right? It's not like they were like weren't even looking. Correct me if I'm wrong, though. All right. Sam with another one. He says, but by rule, you have to make weight for the belts. 100% correct. But Sam, I could tell you there was one particular fighter in California, I've talked about this before, who ended up getting a WBC belt, not necessarily by winning it in the ring. That's all I'll say about it. I won't say how they got it, but they were going for an interim belt. And I know they didn't make weight. I've been told by the people who were there that he did not make weight. But a backroom deal was done, and this person did not make their 7-day weigh-in check. A backroom deal was done to look the other way. Some ducats were thrown out to the opponent, to certain parties, and it was all good. This person has made weight since, but this one particular instance where it was an interim version of the belt that later on became a full version, you guys probably know where I'm going. I'm not naming names, though. They did not make weight for that fight, but it was allowed. These things happen. Deed 3440 with the super chat. Thank you so much, Deed. Appreciate it, brother. He says, kind of wish Triple G moved up to 168 years ago. I understand that Cotto and Canelo were there at the time. I don't know, bro. Like, to me, Golovkin didn't look good at 168. He looked kind of bloated and soft. I think he's a natural 160. I think he looked way better physically for the Murata fight than he looked for this Canelo fight. He could still make 160. He's better there. His power carries more there. I just think he's going to have more success staying at 160. There was really no juice at 168, dude. All the names were at 160 at the time. There really isn't any more right now. But other than Canelo, who are the names at 168? Who are the names? Are guys like Benavidez and Morel any more popular than Munguia? No, they're not. So if 60, he can still make it comfortably, and I know for a fact that he can, and he's stronger there, I think he should stay at 60. Plus, dude, he's got 2 belts there. He still has 2 belts there. Okay, let's take a couple quick calls here. We got Jack on the line. I know he's been dying to talk, and we got Mindiolo after this. All right, so let's this will be 2 interesting calls. Let's get to these real quick, guys. Stay on the line. Okay, Jack. Yeah, what's up, man? How you doing?
Good, man. Good. You already know I'm going to talk about Vegas. I'll try and be quick and not get down to all the details. But first off, I wanted to say the fight doctor. He always calls Golovkin bum Lovkin, like calls him like not even a top 20 middleweight. Dude, you should come to the fights and try saying that to me or Mike's face, and we'll beat the shit out of you, bro. That's disrespectful as hell. Don't be saying that shit. I'm serious, bro. Fight doctor, you're a fucking loser, bro. But yeah, that's what I have to say about that. Like, you can seriously block that loser. Like, he's just a jackass. But
look. I will say this, if I can respond to that. I'm not going to fight anybody over this shit unless they throw a first punch. Then I'll knock their teeth down their fucking throat. However, I welcome I welcome difference of opinion here. Fight Doctor is a hateful human being. And he really has a hard on for Gennady Golovkin, but he's allowed to express his opinion here. Now, if he crosses a line, then I'll block him. You know, there's certain things I won't tolerate, but him hating Golovkin, he's allowed to do that, bro. He's allowed to do that.
Well, I'll just joke about you, but if he says that shit to my face, we're gonna have a problem disrespecting a legend like that.
I want to ref the fight. If you two guys fight, I want to ref that shit. We should have it on the YouTube channel. That'd be a fun fucking fight. There's a pay-per-view, guys. $1.99. Jack versus the Fight Doctor. Let's do it. Anyway, Jack, I'll shut up. Go ahead, bro.
You got me, right? You got me, right, Mike?
I think I'm going to put some money on you. I think I'm going to put some money on Jack with the bookies.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, so Vegas, met Anthony there. Super nice guy. So when I first got there, I went right off the plane to the weigh-in, and there was so many Mexican fans, dude. It was incredible how many Mexicans there was there. There was a bunch of people. I just wasn't used to the atmosphere. The atmosphere was awesome. So after the weigh-in, I went to In-N-Out with Anthony. I got what you told me. You said a tip says to get blah, blah, blah. I got the animal fries and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
In-N-Out was great. It was in the East Coast. Like,
I know, man.
I really do wish it was.
It's got to eventually come out here. But yeah, man, I miss In-N-Out. I really do.
Yeah. Whatchamacallit? Someone said, I got Golovkin. The Fight Doctor gets stopped in half a round. Then, dude, he didn't even say anything. He hasn't responded yet. He's a bitch. But, yeah, okay. So after Anthony was super chill. Then I went to bed. I did some other stuff too, just chilled in the hotel room. Then fight day, I went to the boxing convention, and there was like an hour line for like Roy Jones, Rolly Romero, David Benavidez. You see the picture I got with David Benavidez?
Yeah, it was a good shot, man.
Yeah, dude, David Benavidez was a super nice guy. Have you ever met him?
Actually, no, I haven't met David Benavidez, but I heard he's a super
Damn,
cool
you
guy.
haven't?
Yeah. No, I don't think I have.
He talked to me like he's known me for like 10 years. He was so personable. Like
That's
the first
cool.
thing I said was just like, I'm a big fan. Then he said, hey, I appreciate you coming out, bro. And he talks like he does in all the interviews. And then I asked him about Lemieux. I said, was Lemieux a hard puncher? He's like, here's the thing, bro. He was like, his fists were heavy, and he was like, and he just threw a whole bunch of shots. It was kind of weird the way he explained it, but David Benavidez was a super chill guy, like really, really nice. And so I left because, the lines were so long. And on the way out, ordering an Uber, my dad said, is that Rolly Romero? Because Rolly hadn't gotten there yet. I said, oh, shit, Rolly, come here. And I got a picture with Rolly.
I saw that
like
one
nice
too, yeah.
Surprise. Yeah, because I thought, that, I forgot what I was about to say. Anthony said I wanted to tell Benavidez that Jack was going for Lemieux. I was like, please don't, bro. Like, please don't, because I picked Lemieux to beat Benavidez.
I remember that.
And I was like, don't say that. He's like, during the picture, bro, I should just tell him, be like, this guy picked Lemieux to beat you. And I was like, please don't do that. But Anthony, he was there with me. Just super chill guy. And then on to the fight. Man, there wasn't like any entertaining fights on the night. It was really disappointing, but I love the atmosphere. When we get to the main event, as soon as the fight started, the first round kind of looked like I noticed that something was a little off with Golovkin, but I don't care what anyone says. That first round was tight. It was tight. I could see you giving it to Golovkin. I don't know if you remember round by round, but and call me a Triple G lover for giving him one of the first rounds. But round one, Golovkin, I felt you could definitely give it to him. Round two was more like another swing round, and then Canelo won 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then Golovkin came back and won like 9, 10, 11, 12. Dude, I could see that fight a draw. Listen, don't say anything first. Rounds 1 and 2, if you rewatch round 2, it was pretty close. And watch 9, 10, 11, and 12. Golovkin made a big comeback. I know you're smiling, like laughing, but dude, I'm telling you, rewatch that fight. Canelo won, but it was close. I noticed people saying it was a shutout. It was like 12-0. It was not. It was a closer fight than some assholes are saying. Like, I heard people say it was 12-0.
Yeah, it
literally
wasn't 12-0.
Canelo.
It was not 12-0.
Yeah. Yeah. So anywhere from 6-6 to 8-4 Canelo, in my opinion. I'm doing a punch count. I'll let you know what it is in the end. Um, it was disappointing. I don't know if it was fixed. Like I said, I know you're like it wasn't fixed bullshit. It was weird. I'm not gonna comment on it. I don't know, but it was disappointing. But I was happy to see them like hugging each other after the fight and seeing all that. Golovkin's my boy, but man, it was just a sad night. But then I went home. I slept on it, and I was like, you know what? That was I think a bunch of Canelo fans came at me. They're like, see, Golovkin dominated him, and I was like, bro, he didn't. It was competitive. Like, get the fuck out of here. It was like 8-4 or 7-5 Canelo. Like, bro, come on now. Um, but yeah, it was sad to see Golovkin, and I don't know if you remember, but I said for the predictions for Triple G Canelo 3, I said I wanted to see Lara afterwards, after Lara Golovkin, after Canelo, and look, that fight is arguably going to happen because it's a mandatory. And what do you think about that fight now? I still think Golovkin stops him, but it's a fun fight.
I think it's a distance fight. I think it's a distance fight, and because both guys have slowed down, it's going to make it more entertaining than it had happened 5 years ago. It would have been Lara running and Golovkin wearing him down and stopping him. But now, because of where both guys are at, I think it's actually going to be a fun fight, dude. I think it's going to have a lot more action than what we just saw last Saturday. I like Golovkin by decision in that fight.
But remember, the whole time, Golovkin, whenever he threw his jab, he's so inactive. He still snapped Canelo's head back a lot of times. Like, you know that. And he lands some pretty big punches. Yeah. Lara's defense is not nearly good as Canelo. It's not nearly as good as Canelo. And, Timmy Turner, didn't Lara get stopped by Hurd? No, he arguably beat Hurd. It was 114, 113.
The thing with Lara,
knocked him down.
Lara's got super long arms, man. And it's going to be, Golovkin's going to have to jab his way in, and Lara will touch him on the way in. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be a good fight.
Okay, then 2 more things I want to talk about other Golovkin fights. So after seeing Munguia get touched up and like hurt by the Kelly guy and get beat up in every one of his fights, I still think Golovkin will beat him. It might be a decision, but that should be it might be competitive too, but Golovkin should get that one. Would you agree?
I need to think about it more, but right now I would shade Golovkin by decision. Yeah. Tough. It's going to be a brutal fight, though. It might look like the Derevyanchenko fight a little bit, not in terms of styles, but in terms of the wear and tear.
Yeah, then Charlo Golovkin. I think that's really good, but dude, Charlo's looked like ass lately. Like, he was hurt by Montero, and he has a really good chin, so I'd take Golovkin decision. Yeah, but I still want to see Golovkin have a few fights and retire.
Yeah, I'm with you. He's 2 or 3 more than he needs to hang him up.
Yeah, man. All right. Well, that's my call, Mike. That's my nacho.
Right.
That's my call, Mike.
All right. Thanks a lot.
All right, bro. Peace out.
Peace.
Yeah.
A couple super chats here. Drew says Canelo Triple G did a bigger gate than Fury Wilder 2 and Fury Wilder 3 million pay-per-view buys. But Dan Raphael put out a bogus number for MGM Grand buffet passes. Those are Drew's words, not mine. But I will say, yeah, again, the reporting for Fury and Wilder versus Canelo Triple G, it's just, there's a difference in tone. There's just a difference in tone. It's very interesting. Obviously, the fight between, the third fight between Fury and Wilder, much more entertaining than the third fight between Canelo and Golovkin, and so I could see why, in that sense, the reporting would be more favorable for Fury Wilder, even though it was a very one-sided fight after the first few rounds, even more one-sided than Canelo Golovkin. Both guys had success early on. Both guys got dropped. Fury was put down once legitimately. The other one was kind of a push, but because of that two-way action and them being heavyweights and everything, I could see why, people definitely prefer that fight. It was way more entertaining for sure. So there's that. But in terms, again, of like the gate, the buys, and then the global viewership numbers, yeah, dude, it's really not close. Anthony Santiago with the super chat. He says, I wanted to tell David Benavidez that Jack Alter was going for David Lemieux. Yeah, he told us that in the call. That would have been funny, dude. You should have did it. And honestly, David probably would have been like, oh, it's all good. You know what I'm saying? He probably would have been cool with it. Fighters get it. Like smart fighters get it. Well, I think it was at Errol Spence's fight with Mikey Garcia in the post-fight presser there in Dallas. And my boy Steve Kim was there. He asked Errol Spence a question. Errol goes, yeah. And you picked Mikey Garcia to beat me. And everybody laughed, but so did Errol. And it showed that Errol Spence was cool about it. And he was, it's not like he was holding a grudge. And Steve, to his credit, laughed and said, yeah, I did. And, it was just this fun kind of moment. It wasn't like an anger-filled moment. So fighters are really cool about shit like that for the most part. Oh, we got some dating site app or something or other here in the comments. Why they always do that on these videos? Does anyone really click on that shit? Does it work? All right, back to the phones we go. Let's do a couple more of these, and then I got to go here in a little bit. But I'll get as many of these as I can. We're going to go to Chicago 312. What's up? You're on the show.
Yo. Fight Doctor's in the house on Rick James status as always.
Fight Doctor, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing well. Just wanted to make a few comments directed to the head cheerleader of the bum-loving, nut-hugging crowd who made those stupid, asinine comments. Listen, dude, Mr. Jack Me Off or whatever the fuck your name is. Dude, you could never hit me in my mouth because in order to do that, you would need to come to the South Side, a place that bitch-ass motherfuckers like you never go. It's easy to sit there in your mother's basement and talk shit. Calling out the devil is one thing. Facing him is something else. Now, here's what I'm going to do for you, Mr. Nuthugger, cheerleader.
Are you talking to me? Are you talking to me or are you talking to...
I'm talking to Mr. Jack Me Off or whatever the fuck his name is, your previous caller, who was talking about what he was going to do to me, right? Listen, we can find an MMA gym on the south side of Chicago somewhere. I know you're not coming because a bitch like you would never set foot on the south side of Chicago, a place where I grew up. I grew up on the south side of Chicago.
I was just by the way, I got to interject real quick, Fight Doctor. I was just on the south side. I was in Chicago in July. We hung out on the south side, had some food, checked out a White Sox game. I hung out with some friends down there. It's actually not as bad of a neighborhood as the media makes it out to be. There's some good people down there, some great people. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, well, did you go to Inglewood?
No. You're talking about Inglewood there right now.
Yes, Inglewood, in the Inglewood neighborhood of south side of Chicago. Yes, so you didn't go there. So
why would I go
like
there?
The rough side of south side. Exactly, right? Because people like you don't go to the real south side of Chicago. People like Mr. Jack Me Off don't go
now
to
Fight Doctor's gone because Fight Doctor there, you crossed the line. Fight Doctor, if you know anything about me and where I grew up and what I've been through and where my family's from, then you'd know that what you just said was really fucking stupid. People like me, what's that supposed to mean? Now you pissed me off. I'll allow you to make up for that in the fucking chat. But I ain't going to tolerate that fucking nonsense. Not to me. You want to talk shit to somebody else who was talking shit to you? That's fine. Not to me, my friend. I just got back from Detroit, where I grew up, visiting friends and family there. And you're not going to disrespect me like that on my show. I'm going to choose not to get very mad and violent right now. But you crossed the line. You can make it up. I'll allow you to make that up. But you better not meet me in person without making that up. 415, you're on the show. What's up?
Mike, what's good? It's your boy Luis.
How you doing, Luis? What's up, man?
Doing pretty good, man. That was just kind of awkward, the last one.
Yeah, hard to follow that, right? Hard to follow that.
Yeah, no. Let me just find a little something to it and get to the real, what this show is about. It's the boxing. But, oh, boy, the youngster who call the time, he do be, off the wall dick riding a little too hard. So I kind of feel the anger because sometimes I kind of be feeling that way too. And for him to say that it could have possibly been a draw, like, come on, bro, what the fuck is you? What are you watching? What are you really doing? But anyway, back to the topic. I was kind of feeling like how you broke it down yesterday was like ideal. Like everything what you were saying, I was like, damn, he nailing it. As far as the whole comparison with the Teofimo and the
Thank you.
and the Loma fight, to where we found out that Loma turned out that he had a bad shoulder problem. He had to get surgery right after, where he kind of didn't want to blow his shoulder out too early. And then when he started turning it on, it started being a little more competitive. Of course, that fight was a lot more competitive than this Canelo Triple G3. I myself had it 9-3. I mean 9-3. Yeah, 9-3.
Yeah.
Gave Golovkin the first, maybe 11th and the 9th, if that.
That's exactly how I saw
super
it.
one-sided.
That's exactly how I scored it.
Yeah, super one-sided. Like, I'm telling you, bro, like, you was in my head yesterday. When I was hearing the show, I'm like, damn, he literally saying all the shit I was thinking. As far as, yeah, for real though, real talk. Like, how his body looked soft, looking kind of bloated and shit. Like, he did not look good at 168. I would have thought he would have came in bulkier, looking good, but it's crazy how those 8 pounds, it's not a lot, but it's a lot. If you know what I mean?
Especially at 40, man. Especially at 40.
Right. Now, let me tell you this. What I think, I don't know how you might take it, but there's no disrespect for nothing at all. Just to give you a heads up, because I know you're kind of hot right now.
I'm good, man. I'm good.
I think Canelo should take the, honestly, it's well deserved for him. I think he should honestly take the Money Mayweather route at this point in his life, because he has been a super active, the most active champion that we have had in any weight class in I don't know how long. Like, active champions, we're lucky we see him twice a year. You know what I mean? Most of these motherfuckers fight once a year on some lazy ass shit. You know what I mean? Just when they need some more money. Yep. And it's kind of bullshit, because the biggest fighter in the game, who has been the biggest fighter for quite a few years now, was Canelo, and he was the most active one. So I kind of feel like he kind of deserves to let his body heal, because, of course, that wrist injury he was talking about. But it's not even just that. It's just so much of, not the fight, but, I mean, by you being in the game for so many years, you could allude to a little better than I can as far as the training camps, the sparring, the waking up, the diet, like all that shit is fucking. We got to think about it. He's a 32, but he's an old 32.
Yeah.
He started professional as a kid, and I mean, even though he was fighting, a lot of Taco Man and shit in Mexico, there were still fights. You know what I mean? They're still fucking grown ass men. And I'm a Latino, so you know what I mean. I can say that. Far from being racist. I'm just Spanish, but like it's like the dude deserves it though. Honestly, he should vacate all 4 of those belts, because I kind of didn't feel like it was appropriate that Triple G never fighting at 68, getting that crack and undisputed. Like, you know how many 168 pounders was fucking fuming at the head, at the heart about that shit? Like, they worked their whole life to get to a title opportunity, let alone undisputed. And this guy who just cut in front of the line and gets a crack at undisputed, that's history, That's history. I mean, Canelo's the only person to do it. So I feel like to say, fuck all the 168 pounders and y'all go collect these belts the way I did. I'm not going to just give one of you motherfuckers a crack at the undisputed at one shot, kind of with what Haney just did with Cambosa.
Mm-hmm.
And then Haney didn't even get his 35-pound belt, really. You know what I mean? He got that shit emailed to him. He fought a fucking nobody, a ranked double-digit fighter to get that intern belt. But what's your thought about that as far as letting Canelo, basically not retire, but, go into the just pay-per-view route. Just fight who you want to fight for, what you want to fight for, when you want to fight them, which would be Cinco de Mayo in September, the Mexican Independence Day, and just ride that career out like that. Because, I mean, you're already 4-division champ. I can understand you want to fight Bivol, but at this point, let your body heal, bro. Like, you did what you needed to do. You became undisputed. You went for greatness up in another weight class. Don't just give one of these up-and-comer fighters, how you say all the time, though, Mike, these guys don't want to fight each other.
Mm-hmm.
So they all trying to get in line to fight too. So, fuck these motherfuckers, drop them belts, make everybody else earn them, and you fight who the fuck you want to fight, who you could get paid the most for, because he's going to take the hardest challenge. He's not going to fight, a fucking dog gorilla or nothing,
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I mean, again, he ain't going to fight till next May. And I think that he really wants Bivol. If he does fight Bivol again and loses, let's assume Bivol beats Zerto, which is no guarantee because Zerto's tough. But if he does and Canelo fights him and loses again, he's still undisputed super middleweight champ. So it's kind of like what Golovkin just did against Canelo. There's really no losing. You're going to make a ton of money. And if you lose, you get to say, well, 175 is just too big for me. After that, I agree with you. Kind of go the Floyd route. And I think that's what he's going to do, man. He's going to pull back a little bit and be really selective in his matchmaking because he can. And he's going to be in the twilight of his career.
Mike, yeah.
So, yeah.
Disagree, Mike. He deserves it, Mike. Like, real recognize real. Like, the kid deserves it, bro. He's 32 years old, everything he did, and he's still taking on his challenges. Like, why not? Like, fucking, I mean, Floyd wasn't undisputed when he got that Showtime deal. I want to say he was 32 on his first fight with that 6-fight Showtime deal when he fought Guerrero. And he got a crack at Guerrero, and Guerrero had just got the belt. Or right. It was a vacant belt. I can't remember what it was, but
probably
you
interim
recall
or some
what I'm
shit.
saying, though. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he fought whoever he wanted to fight. Yeah, you know one thing I was noticing, too? When Floyd fought Manny, right? That was for 3 out of the 4 titles. That was damn near undisputed when they fought. He had the WBA, WBC, and Pac had the WBO. And Floyd wouldn't find mandatories or up the rank because he was established. Canelo could do the same shit, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you, man. He probably could. He really probably could.
Yes. But thanks for your time, Mike. I'm sorry if I went on a little too long, but I mean, really looking forward to talking to you yesterday. I didn't get a chance to.
No, it's all good, man. It's great points, brother. Great points.
Keep up the good show, bro, and I'll be listening.
All right, thanks a lot, man.
Later.
All right, there he goes. USC Trojan Zones says Fight Doctor has been exposed multiple times on different boxing podcasts as a full-on PBC dick rider who is a racist. Typical guy who kept screaming at Triple G ducked Ward. Shake my head. Dude is a R word. Look, Fight Doctor, I see you in the chat, man. If you want to call back in to clarify what you were saying a minute ago, because you obviously either don't know my story, you're ignorant, which, I mean, the fact that you assume something based upon my appearance tells me that you're an ignorant kind of person. I'm really trying to work with you here, dude, and give you an opportunity to clean this shit up. I can just ban you, but I'm trying to work with you. If you want to take back some of the things you said and explain what you meant by people like me when you don't know a fucking thing about me and my family. For all the things you said, bro, I didn't say people like you. I didn't say you people or anything like. You've been on here calling Gennady Golovkin bum Lovkin. And I'm critical of fighters. I'm critical of different fighters out there. But I don't use words like bum to describe them and things like that. And I would never say people like you are not going to do this or people like you. Like, I haven't described you that way. So for you to call in when I've been pretty cool to you, you've called in before, and I let you kind of rant and get off, and you say some really nasty shit, bro. You really do. And I've been pretty cool to you. So to throw that shit at me, that's fucked up. I'm not going to tolerate that. I'm sick of like being Mr. Nice Guy. If you say something that's true, okay. But if you're throwing some nasty shit out that ain't even fucking true, or it's based in something hateful, not going to tolerate it, man. Not going to tolerate it. All right. We're running up at like 90 minutes, guys. And I got a bunch of guys. I'm not going to get to all these calls, but I see Sam calling. Let me get to Sam. Hang on, Sam. Let me get your call because I know you've been on hold. Sam, what's up, man?
Hello?
Yeah, Sam. How's it going, bro?
Man, I miss you, Mike. I ain't seen you in years.
I know, man. I know.
I've earned a phone call. I blew all my credit cards.
That's what I was saying, man. You've been a great supporter of the show, and so we go way back. So I just wanted to make sure I got your call on here real quick. How you been, man?
I like the. I've been struggling a little bit with his back surgeries and stuff, but at least I get a handicap seat at the fight. So it gives me
that's cool, man.
Right in front of
silver lining and everything, man.
they treat you good, when you're like that. But I just want to get into a couple of things about the fight. First of all, it's Dan Rayfield. You keep saying Rafael is not Spanish, not to be a dick, but he'll tell you that.
Oh,
Rayfield,
honestly,
right?
I don't know, man. I've talked to Dan Rayfield like 3 times in my life, and it was all of 5 minutes.
I know, but okay. Second of all, to say that there was not another good fight, that Bam Rodriguez fight was a fight of the year candidate. Believe me, if that guy could punch a little harder, there might have been a knockout in that fight. Fellow Mexican guy, he was phenomenal. I mean, they didn't expect that.
He fought very
That was
well.
the fight of the night. Also, the night before the fight, I saw Jose Benavidez Sr., and I said, "What do you think about the fight?" And he said, "I heard Canelo had another surgery on that knee, and it's real sore." So I said, nobody's saying anything about that. And then one of my friends who knows, he's a Spanish guy, and I'm not going to mention his name, he knows all the promoters and stuff. He said, they're going to have an early closed door weigh-in at 8 o'clock. And I mean, it just sounds to me like maybe Canelo was a little overweight, and they don't. I mean, if I'm Golovkin, I'm not going to cancel the fight over a couple of pounds, like you said. So they don't want to see that on the scale. So if they do it closed doors, they could agree to what they, and I'm fine with it. I don't think it mattered in the fight. That's all I was trying to say, is to have a closed door weigh-in like that, because if one guy's overweight and they're going to say, well, the belt's on the line, it's going to ruin. You're going to have to go cut the weight, So that's the only thing that comes to mind like that, right?
Yeah, I feel you on that. Yeah, that I agree on. And then just for the fact that like this fight was such a big fight, and there were a lot of people there who wanted to go to the weigh-in, and they weren't allowed to. Like that's really shitty. I gotta be honest with you, dude. I didn't even know they did that until you told me, because I just wasn't paying attention. I was in Detroit visiting with people and working and stuff. So I didn't even pay attention to the weigh-in or any of that. I didn't even know until you told me. And that's what's really bad. It means nobody in the media talked about that.
I don't think they knew it. My friend is real good friends with Paco and all the Spanish promoters, and he told me, he was actually staying with me. I had an extra bed. I said, "Dude, just stay with me." It was crazy, for the rooms. And he told me, because they're having a closed door weigh-in at 8 in the morning. Because that weigh-in late in the day is going to be fake, which basically just to, let people look like, okay, they're at a weigh-in. But it just tells me, because this isn't the first time. Getting back to when I took the film, I didn't even know it when I took the film, okay? I got home after the first fight, and I kept seeing in the comments, Canelo didn't make weight. So if you watch the film, he puts it on 160, Golovkin makes 160, he leaves it there. Then he walks away. For some reason, my camera called him, come back, and he moves the little dial about two or three notches to the left. Canelo gets on, he goes 160, and he slams it to 0. And I'm like, that did not look good. So that tells me Canelo probably didn't make weight for that one either. But they're not going to cancel the fight over that, right?
Yeah, they're not going to cancel the fight like that. Yeah, no, I agree with you. They're not going to cancel the fight. And it's really up to Golovkin's handlers to protect him, and I remember telling Tom Loeffler that, because I was like, Tom, you guys are going up against Vegas judges, and he felt confident. So Abel Sanchez, and I'm like, Adelaide Bird is one of these judges. Like, what's up, man? Because you can protest and you could say, we don't want that person judging our fight. And they were just cool with everything. And I thought that top to bottom, they could have did a little bit better of a job protecting Golovkin in that situation. And I do remember that thing with the scale. It was really, really shady. It was.
And the last thing is the fight itself, real quick. If you remember the second fight, we were there. Golovkin took 45 body shots that would have knocked out anybody. He took uppercuts, his face was busted up, and he still had the strength to come back and almost win the fight. What bothers me is this time he didn't get touched up at all. He just he kept his distance. I don't think Canelo landed 2 body shots. And why didn't he have? I know he's 40. But I heard Abel Sanchez say he stays in shape year round. I don't think it's the age. He said he thinks it's just the way he trained. Like they trained him so much to box, he didn't know when to pull the trigger. And I'm telling you, Canelo was gassed after the match. I see it on the big screen. I'm like, go for it. And it just wasn't there. We're going to leave it up to the judges in Vegas against this guy?
Yeah, he never look. Golovkin did not go for broke, and you would think that at some point he would. He was overly cautious, and it seemed that in the end he was kind of content going to the cards and losing the fight. That's just how it looked. And
Exactly.
When you got a guy that's made the kind of money Golovkin has with the kind of business that he still has remaining, that's just the mentality that takes hold. And it's difficult for some people to accept. But Sam, you and I, we've seen this before. We've seen this act play out before. Golovkin's not the first guy. There's many examples we could point to, but I'm with you, man. Like, that's what I saw. That's what I saw.
I mean, that was your chance to knock this guy out, and he was right there, right for the picking, and he just didn't make the attempt. That's what bothered me. I don't say that it was fixed. It just bothered me. It could have been a great finish if he'd have just stuck it, walk the plank a little bit,
Ultimately, he didn't do that because he was afraid of what was going to come back at him. That's why he didn't do it. Golovkin obviously didn't go there to lose, right? He was on edge all week. I remember he had the locker room door shut, wouldn't let media in there on fight night. He wanted to win. It's just when you're an older guy and you can't pull the trigger the way you used to, it's either because you physically can't do it or because you are not afraid of what's coming back, but you're like timid. And to me, that's what I saw. I just thought, he looks like a guy that doesn't want to get hit with that big shot.
And last thing, as far as Canelo, I think his joints are going to start bothering him the next few years. From the roids and, like I said, 2 knee surgeries, and it's still bothering him. I think he's going to have problems with those knees.
I could see, he could end up almost breaking down, kind of like Sergio Martinez did, the way his knees really start breaking down.
All right, well, have a good one. Thanks a lot.
You too, brother. Good to hear from you, man. All right, there he goes, guys. We're running up at 90 minutes. I didn't want to go more than an hour today, but here we are, 90 minutes. Thanks a lot, guys. Interesting show, to say the least. But by the way, I prefer for listeners of the show to not be fighting with each other. So Jack and Fight Doctor, I'd actually prefer you guys don't fight. Can't we all just get along? But seriously, anyway, guys, have a great rest of your week. We'll do TNC Monday. I'm going to be traveling this weekend with my wife. So I'll be back. No Friday wrap up, but we'll do TNC Monday. I'll see you guys then. All right, peace.